English by the Nature Method, Chapter 37. The 37th Chapter, English Institutions. One day, our four friends passed a hospital. This is a hospital. Outside, they saw a placard or poster, on which was written in big letters, £10,000 still needed to pay for last year. Brown, what is the meaning of the placard? Here's a placard. Would you be kind enough to explain that to us, Mr. Miller? Mr. Miller, yes, that means that the hospital still needs £10,000 to be able to pay its bills for last year. Many of the big hospitals in England are private. That is, neither the state nor the towns in which they are situated have anything to do with them, so that they do not get any money from the towns or from the state to pay for their work. Brown, how do they get money then? Mr. Miller, it's given to them by private people. Money for the hospitals is often collected on special days in the year. There is, for example, a special Saturday called Hospital Saturday, on which a lot of money is collected for the hospitals in the streets, at the doors, etc. And as you have seen just now, posters tell people all the year round that the hospitals need money. In some countries, most of the hospitals, schools, and churches are paid for either by the state or by the towns. They are what we call public and get public help. But in England, this is not always so. Here those three institutions are often private. I have already mentioned one of them, the hospitals. Now I will tell you a little about the schools. They may be divided into higher and lower schools. Most lower schools are paid for by the towns. They are open to everybody, and nobody has to pay anything for sending his children to one of the lower schools. The pupils enter the lower schools, which are also called the primary or elementary schools, at the age of 5. When they are about 11 years old, they pass on to the higher or secondary schools, which they do not leave until they are between 16 and 18 years of age. Most of the higher secondary schools are paid for by the towns. It does not cost anything to send children to these schools. However, there is also a large number of private secondary schools. The third institution I mentioned is the church. People usually think that the English are very religious. Foreigners have the idea that all Englishmen go to church very often. So I think you will be surprised to hear that the Church of England is not a state church. It's called the Church of England, but though it has this name, it's not a state church, because it does not get any money from the state. We may, however, say that it's a national church, because more Englishmen are members of this church than of any other church in England. You see, therefore, that some institutions which are usually public in other countries are very often private in England. Storm, yes, and those are not the only things in which the English are different from the people in most other countries. I think that England and Sweden are the only two countries where the traffic keeps to the left. If you come from a country where the traffic keeps to the right, it's important when you cross the street always to look in both directions. It's not a good thing to take chances. Why do England and Sweden keep to the left, when most other nations in the world keep to the right? Mr. Miller, I'm afraid I can't answer that question. However, when foreigners come to England, it only takes them a short time to get used to it. There are many other things in which the English are different from other nations. As an example, I might mention the English monetary system. Most countries in the world now use the decimal system. The decimal system, as you know, is built upon figures which may be divided by 10. But the English continue to use the pounds, shillings, and pence. Their weights and measures, too, are different from those of other countries. In some countries they still have a weight called a pound, which is equal to 500 grams, or half a kilogram. But in England, 1 pound is equal to 454 grams, while other countries speak of kilometers, meters, and centimeters. The English have such measures as miles and yards. The length of a mile is equal to 1.61 kilometers, and the length of a yard is equal to 1.91 meters. A yard has 36 inches. The main reason why the English do not change their weights and measures is that they like to keep to the old things, and the most important reason for this is, perhaps, that England is an island, cut off by the sea from the other countries of the world. When the English cross the Channel, they seem to feel that they enter quite another world, different from their own, and mostly they do not like what they see in other countries so well as they do their own things.